Let me take a moment to call on a few folks for some remarks, and I know we have a long day today, so we'll be respectful of that, but at the same time try to honor our colleague as well. Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise through you, Mr. Speaker, to truly give honor to the work that Kevin Ryan did as a representative. I had the opportunity, beyond just serving with him, really growing up around him. So my two predecessors who were in the 46th district were very close with Mr. Ryan, and watching him really have a unique approach to really knowing our community in Norwich and Montville and in Legend and Basra, which he served all of those areas for a good amount of time. It was really special. There was never a time that we would go to an event and it was always a joke if he got there before Senator Austin. We knew that there was words to be said in a joking fashion. And so, I think he always made it so that, we knew we were a family. And when I started in this building in 2023, he was the first one to check in and make sure that I knew the ropes around here. And so it has been a pleasure to serve with him. It's a whole 180 from watching him do the work to actually being able to do the work with him. So definitely appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Wilson. Representative Pemberton, the 139th.
Yeah, so I didn't get much of a chance to really meet Kevin Ryan that much. I think I met him like once or twice. But one thing I do know about Kevin Ryan is he has an amazing impact on the area. As far as my campaign trail went, I met a lot of people who had really great things to say about him. I realize I have big shoes to fill, but I'm looking forward to doing that. And I just feel like Kevin Ryan will be always remembered by everyone.
Thank you, sir, very much. Representative Gresko of the 121st from Stratford. The floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had the privilege of knowing Kevin for 20-plus years. I had the privilege of sitting next to him. First met him in the 90s when I was a sessional employee here, but really got to know him in the 2000s when I was in the back room with Chief of Staff. And his impact on this chamber will be remembered going forward. When we discuss environmental policy, we would go back and forth, and I would look at him and say, "You taught physics?" And he would give you the look. We've all gotten the look from Kevin going forward. I also had the privilege of seeing him at Yale New Haven, and we exchanged our usual banter. And then I told him that it was an honor to know him and have him be a friend of mine. So in a rare moment, he kind of made me promise that I would continue the tradition here in the chamber of having the Twizzlers. So I have the Twizzlers, and please feel free to come over and we can share a Twizzler and remember Kevin. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker Gresko. Representative Godfrey from Danbury. Kevin's still playing pranks on you from a higher place.
Now it's working. Somehow that was appropriate for eulogizing Kevin Ryan. It's the kind of thing, I can hear him now making some rude remarks about that little incident we just had. I have known Kevin Ryan for 32 years, his entire time here in the House of Representatives, and we were more than colleagues. We were friends. Now, he obviously represents a district in far eastern Connecticut. I represent a district in far western Connecticut. But geography can be destiny, because obviously, sitting here, he sat right behind me. Michelle Cook sat right next to him. Together, we were the Disruptive Caucus. You may not have noticed, you may have noticed, but that wicked sense of humor that he had continued every day here. And Michelle and I, and later Joe and a few other people, Hilda, enjoyed his company very, very much. Kevin was clearly devoted to his constituency. I think this is the first time I've seen a deceased member actually give his own eulogy with that great video that I'm very grateful that we see. So I really don't have to go through the list of the things that were important to him, the things that he did, because he did that himself. But I want to talk a little bit, both he and I were very much involved with the Council of State Governments, which is a big part. Every member of the House is a member of the Council of State Governments. And back in 2011, I was national chair. Just a few years ago, in 24, Kevin was the national chair. And we have a 4-year rotation. Last year, he was the immediate past chairman. And the first officer of the Council of State Government in its 90-plus years history to die in office. We had our flags at half-staff here, but in Lexington, Kentucky, the flags were also at half-staff. The only other time I've seen that for a member of the Connecticut House of Representatives was when Q died. And that was important. He was devoted to national issues, to states' rights, as well as his constituency and the issues of the state of Connecticut. A moment on his wicked sense of humor. Accompanying him to many meetings across the nation, we'd be talking with a third person who was not familiar with Kevin, and Kevin would go off in one of his sarcastic rants. And I'd have to pause and explain to this third person, this is Kevin, let me tell you about this. It was funny, you should have laughed, not looked alarmed. And I saw that so many times. That was like his thing. Wherever he went, I think he believed that a day without laughter is like a day without sunshine. That was just Kevin. Kevin just totally was into making people smile, making people laugh, making people comfortable. And I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker, I miss him terribly. We were friends. We were more than just colleagues. And I was mourned deeply at his passing, did another eulogy or two with the Council of State Governments in December. And I'm hoping that we all remember him, remember his dedication, remember his intelligence, and remember his wicked sense of humor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well said, sir. Thank you. Representative Dubitsky, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kevin Ryan and I shared a city with 2 different names. I represented Norwich, he represented Notch. We worked together on a lot of things for many years. We would have dinner together on many occasions. We'd go to every pancake breakfast, every chicken dinner, every awards dinner. When we handed out awards, we'd take turns who was going to give out the awards to who. We would exchange a lot of jokes. Mine were actually funny. But he meant well. He tried hard, and he would, you know, because we were kind of close for being on opposite ends of the aisle, he would sometimes tell me things about you all that I'm not supposed to know. So I will certainly miss that. My effectiveness here may be diminished a little bit for lack of that knowledge, but I will certainly, as I walk around Norwich, I will always think of him, and I'll miss him. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Dubitsky. Appreciate that. Your remarks a great deal. Representative Haddad, 54th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was a young man in 1992. I think was the first time I met Kevin Ryan. I remember I was at my new in-laws' house in Basra, Connecticut. They had a Memorial Day parade in Basra. We set our lawn chairs out at the end of the driveway, and along first, I think Edith Prague walked by first, and then followed by Kevin Ryan, who was, I think, in his first term. It might have been 1993. In those days, and currently as well, in Basra, the parades are pretty sparsely attended. There are more people in the parade than watch the parade. And so he had a chance to come over and say hi. My wife knew him from her work here at the General Assembly, and that's the first time I met. What I didn't know then was how important he would be to my own evolution as an elected official representing Eastern Connecticut. And I just wanted to spend a moment to say that while I appreciate Representative Dubitsky's remarks a lot, he was certainly a presence in Norwich. He was a presence all through Eastern Connecticut. Those of us who represent Eastern Connecticut know that he would travel well outside of his district to go to events, dinners, breakfasts. We would see him often, and he was very proud, not just of his home district, but of all of Eastern Connecticut. I had an occasion to travel with him occasionally. One such trip was to Taiwan, and he was the co-chair of the Connecticut-Taiwan Friendship Caucus. And certainly we traveled other places as well. He was a great travel partner, and certainly every bit as sarcastic and acerbic wit as has been described already. Kevin was certainly somebody who would not hold back if he saw something that was where he was able to make fun of you, and you couldn't pass his desk without having him say slyly, like, "Oh," he'd say, "Oh, you." And you'd have to sort of dish it back a little bit in order to keep his respect in that regard. I certainly think that Kevin Ryan did this job well. He really did it the right way. And I appreciate him for being a role model, for being a mentor to me, and for being a friend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Butler from the City of Waterbury.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had to just rise for some brief comments because Kevin meant a lot to me. You could see from his video a lot of the things that he had passion for are still very relevant and priorities for us today. And while he didn't get up and speak in the chamber that much, it goes to show that, he was a committed state representative and served us well. But what I wanted to speak to was his wit again. The first time I saw Kevin was walking through the aisle, and I was putting on my lapel pin like this, exactly like this one, and he looked at me and said, "I don't know why you putting on that pin. You probably won't be serving here long." And I had to look and see, and he did this with a straight face. It's like, who is this guy? But I could tell you after that point, game on. He was an equal opportunity insulter. Let me tell you, in every day since that first day, almost 20 years ago, we were trading all kinds of barbs, insults, and it's something to look forward to. So I'm going to miss that because somebody you could engage in like that on a daily basis coming in here is something to look forward to, but I'm going to miss that. But last thing, I know somebody will probably be speaking about his ties to the Taiwanese folks, and I could tell you that he was committed to that. I was also working with him on that. I don't think people in this chamber, maybe in this country, realize how important that the Taiwanese government in that little island out in the South Pacific actually means to America. If you ever were to see the economic impact and partnership that they have with us, you would be amazed. So not only that, I hope that we continue this sister state relationship, but Kevin Ryan actually was a champion of that cause, and let us not forget that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker Butler. And let the record reflect that your pin is a state of Connecticut pin. It's not advocating for anything, correct? Won't make you take it off. Representative Reyes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for a point of recognizing Mr. Ryan, please. It is.
May proceed, sir.
I was the recipient for the last 10 years of many of those sarcastic barbs. When I first got here, Representative Butler, I think I got the same treatment. So for the last 6, 7 years, I always got the "you're still here." That's what I got from Mr. Ryan. And I was asking and inquiring about this gentleman, what's going on with him? And he said, well, if he's picking on you, he sort of likes you. He really doesn't like a lot of people. I took it as a compliment. But he sat right over here at the end where Mr. Representative Gresco's sitting, and I would purposely go out that way because I knew that he would say, you're closer to the exit on that side. And he would see me coming, and he would push his chair back. And then when I would tap on the shoulder, he goes, you're still here. So I remember him with fond memories. He was an excellent representative to serve with in the committees, and everything that the representatives have spoken on his behalf is all true. He's a perfect gentleman, and he, at the end of the day, was one of the associates here that actually recommended me for the Toll Fellowship, and I'll be forever grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Representative Nolan. Followed by Representative Gajewski, and then we'll do the leaders at that point, okay?
Just rising for a recognition of Kevin Ryan, Mr. Speaker.
You may proceed, sir.
When I first got here, I was scared of Kevin. I knew him prior, just from events in the community. Kevin used to be the representative that came to New London more than I've ever known a representative to come to another community. He had a home at the Guard Arts Theater. He had a home at the New London Elks. But Kevin frustrated me sometimes, especially election time, because he made people think that he was the rep for New London. And he wouldn't tell them. So people would literally go to the poll. I didn't see that Kevin Ryan guy. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? He goes, I'm trying to get you out of here. But he was a great educator for when I first came. He really implemented some things. And I really have to thank Maureen because she made a great difference in his life. And he did make that known. But I always will remember, most importantly, when he parked in the wrong place in New London, and a guy blocked him in and demanded money from him to get out. And he called me when I was in Bermuda. And he said, hey, this guy is over here charging me to get out the lot. I said, well, what lot are you in? The funeral home lot. I said, you parked in the funeral home lot? He said, yeah, I always do. I said, give him the money. And he always would remind people that I was a bad police officer because I wouldn't help him out. But there was a lot of great memories with Kevin. He is dearly missed in, I know, our community also because of his presence. He is actually an honorary member for the city of New London. and I'm just grateful for all he instilled in us. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well said. Thank you, sir. Representative Gajewski of the 40th. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for a purpose of eulogizing Representative Ryan.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For those of you who do not know in the chamber, my previous job before this was working as a constituent engagement coordinator for Representative Ryan. It was only 2 months, or as he liked to tease me, only 2 minutes. But he was a wealth of knowledge for me personally, for the delegation as a whole. As previously mentioned by my colleagues, he was a representative of Southeastern Connecticut and really the leader of our delegation. And since he's passed, there have been multiple times where I've wanted to call him on regional issues and say, I wonder what Representative Ryan would think, and I will truly miss him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Representative Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for a point of personal privilege. Representative Ryan was one of a kind, truly one of my favorite colleagues in this building, one of the first memories I have of this building. We've heard time and time again today about his quick wit, and you know, you had to dish it back to him, of course, because boy, could he give it. And so one of my first interactions with him, you know, he gave it to me pretty good. And I said, well, Representative Ryan, that's all fine and dandy, but you've been serving a lot longer than I've been alive. And so from that day on, you know, we went back and forth, blow for blow with jokes, but, you know, he was involved at a local level in ways that so many legislators don't get involved in. You know, grassroots, getting to know what the issues are, intimately impacting our region in southeastern Connecticut, but not only a locally focused guy, a globally focused guy as well, as was mentioned with his deep care for the partnership and sister state relationship the state of Connecticut has with Taiwan. And so I send my deepest condolences to his former constituents, his family and friends. Again, we are going to make you proud by continuing to do great work for southeastern Connecticut and the entire state on your behalf, Representative Ryan.
Thank you, Representative Baumgartner. Representative Carpino, and then Representative Candelora.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Ryan was very free with his insults across the aisle. I don't know when I first met Kevin because he was always there. But I had the opportunity to serve with him outside of this building. Kevin and I served on a national organization together. And he was so kind in a Kevin sort of way. He would very kindly introduce me when I first started in that organization to the folks he needed me to talk to. But he would do it in a Kevin kind of way. He'd say, hi, have you met Representative Carpino? I really think she's someone you should talk to. And I'd go off and I'd talk, and he knew that these were key individuals with information I needed to bring back here to Connecticut. And then I'd go back and say, thanks, Kevin. He goes, well, I'm so glad you talked to them. That meant I didn't have to talk to you anymore. And that was our exchange. He was key to me learning more about the relationship with our Taiwanese friends. And he would check on me while I was there, asking me if I was learning, asking me if I was safe, and encouraging me to stay and not come back because we could figure it out. But I knew that I had really made a friend in Representative Ryan because he wouldn't just give me a sly comment when I passed in the hall or would come over to talk to Representative Cook. He would actually come all the way over here to insult me. And then he would actually tell us that he didn't like the candy we had and that we should do better as members. I say that because that was who Kevin was to all of us. He kept an eye on you. You knew you were doing good when you got a nod or a wink. And I'll never forget that friendship. It didn't matter that our districts were far apart. It didn't matter that we were on opposite sides of the chamber and often on opposite sides of the issue. He is what is best in this chamber. He was a true friend, and he will be missed by many. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative Carpino. Representative Candelora.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, rise. and to give condolences to his friends and family that are in the well of the house. As we're hearing from everybody, certainly Kevin's sense of humor rivaled nothing in this chamber. I first sort of got to know him on the Public Health Committee, with Representative Cook and Representative Carpino. And, aside from him being a physics teacher, which I learned about only a couple of years ago, Kevin was also an optometrist, and his advocacy for that industry to make sure that people had access to eye care brought him and I together on the Public Health Committee, and we worked together a lot on that issue. And it was always amazing to find out what he did. He was had certainly a diversity of, I would say, professions and areas of expertise. But one of the things that we hear about is, I think Kevin kept a list, of people he liked and people he didn't like. And you had no idea which list you were on. He's probably the only person I've ever met that he could land an insult on you and you'd actually feel good about it when you're walking away. And so he certainly will be missed in this chamber. And he was somebody that brought us together. His sarcasm, his wit, and his advocacy will be a great loss for the state of Connecticut, and I am truly sorry to all of you for his loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Candelora. Mr. Majority Leader, Representative Rojas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And like everybody who has stood and talked about Kevin, I think it's a reminder to all of us to think about ourselves in more human terms on a regular basis, as opposed to just looking at us as each other as legislators. I think it's important for the outside world to understand Kevin Ryan as a human more than just a legislator. Obviously, we come up here to debate bills and vote on laws, but we also spend quite a bit of time with each other where we understand each other better as humans. And I have Representative Gresko described it as a privilege. I do think it was a privilege to be in the presence of Kevin as much as I had, but it also came with enormous responsibility and required a lot of grit to survive what has been described as humor and insults and his wittiness. And I've been at this desk for 5 years. I spent a couple years at that desk, spent a couple years at that desk. So spent a lot of time with Kevin Ryan, right? A good part of my legislative career with Kevin, and then a good part of my life in general around Kevin Ryan. It's unfortunate that it's at times of losing a colleague in their passing that we take the time to think about the complex human beings that they are. And I think listening to everybody's comments today, I think it's really important to remind ourselves of that. And I certainly want to express my condolences to his family, his friends, to Maureen and Michael, who provided him such amazing care and love at the end of his time here, to all the staff who worked for him or worked with him, who just adored Kevin. He was really a special person. And early in my career, it's been referenced, his role at CSG. Let's remind ourselves about what CSG is, right? He was dedicated to that because it's an organization that brings together Democrats and Republicans from across government to try to build common ground, build relationships, build trust, open up lines of communication. And gosh, we really need that right now in our world, right? There are times where we lose sight of our shared humanity and our role in this very special place. And I think Kevin really embodied the very best of what this place is. His commitment to his communities, his commitment to Eastern Connecticut, not really different than every person in this room who is committed to their community or to the region of the state that they call home. And I think that's what I will remember most about Kevin, and I hope everybody in this chamber does the same thing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, and thank you for all the remarks today. I sat there too. Jeff's still sitting. I sat with Jeff and James Albus, and there's some similar people and new people, as it should be, right? But I had Emmett Riley, who was my secret weapon, because Emmett could translate for me what Kevin was saying. So if he'd be like, no, he's in a good mood today. He's in a bad mood, but he would say the same thing. But Emmett could figure out, like go like this, what kind of mood Kevin was in that particular day. I had it was the misfortune of having to go down there, but also the pleasure of going to the funeral with a lot of legislative colleagues. And Matthew Barrett did a phenomenal job during that funeral. And he reminded us that Kevin went to Villanova with the Pope. And Kevin got to meet the Pope a few months before he passed. And I can't help but thinking that he probably put the Pope in the same position as all of us. what side are you on, right? Like, and I hope the Pope forgives him for that. But on a serious note, because we talked about Kevin's humor, and it's all true, the story that I wanted to tell was in 2015, became the chair of the Public Health Committee, which, as Representative McCarthy-Vahey well knows, that's a tough committee. There's a lot thrown at you, a lot of bills, not what I kind of expected. It was more than health, but Kevin came to see me. And I wasn't afraid of Kevin, but you know, I took this seriously, and it was an important meeting, and he said something to the effect of, I need you to pass a bill to legalize marijuana for children. And I said, what? He goes, you heard me. And Bev Henry was looking at like, I don't know. So I said, can you tell me more about this a little bit? And Kevin had met a constituent who had seizures, uncontrollable seizures, and had met the mother. And there had been trials across the country where it was that medicinal marijuana, right, or cannabis, in some cases could help cure the seizures for a period of time. But you got to think back 10 years ago to the debate on marijuana in this country. It's come a long way. You may not agree with where it's come, but it's very different than it was in 2016 from a regulatory standpoint. And so the title of the bill was palliative medicinal or marijuana for kids or adolescents or children. And I remember taking the bill out expecting 14 hours, right? Trying to explain to people we were not giving marijuana to children, but that Kevin really felt for his constituent that this could be a game changer for that young child and her family. And Kevin was so emotional about it. He probably talked to everybody in this chamber. And my job, and Emmett Riley was right next to me, it was the easiest thing in the world. There were some no votes, but people understood what he was trying to do. And I always think, you know, everybody can glom onto the big bills, right? Everybody can co-sponsor HB 5009, whatever you want to do. The magic of a talented legislator is that ability to truly drill down and represent your constituent. One person. It was just one person who emailed him, and it probably took him hours to just educate people about it. No, there's no glory in that. No one co-sponsored that bill, let me tell you. But Kevin knew that it was going to make life better for one person. That's the mark of a really good legislator. Can you take a bill that one person cares about, that's highly controversial, that has to educate them and make an impact on them and their family? And he was willing to do that. So for all of the goofiness and at times, under his breath remarks that I've heard many times to our colleagues, there was a serious policymaker who loved Eastern Connecticut, as so many have said, but truly was the definition of a great legislator and a great champion. So I'd ask our chamber rise for a moment of silence. Thank you to all the family and friends who are here today and our former colleagues as well. And we'll give Kevin one more send-off here from his good friends in the chamber. Thank you.